Welcome back to the Premier League show. The former West Ham Bolton midfielder Matt Taylor, our guest this evening. Jurgen Klopp has distanced himself from what would be a sensational return to management with Real Madrid. Alvaro Arbeloa has stepped up from coaching reserve team to take charge, but Sky in Germany are reporting that Klopp is a candidate to take over in the summer. Klopp, though, says he's happy where he is. In an interview with German TV, the former Liverpool manager said, "My phone did actually ring, but not from Madrid. There were, however, a few people who felt they needed to bring it up with me. In general, it's a sign that not everything there is 100% right. When Xabi Alonso, who showed over 2 years in Leverkusen what an outstanding coaching talent he is, has to leave Real Madrid just half a year later. I really feel sorry for him because I consider him a great coach. It has nothing to do with me and didn't trigger anything in me either. The coaching market is being reshuffled and it's not a bad thing to experience all of this from an observer's perspective and not think about what it might mean for yourself because you're in the right place where you are."
What is new and what we can reveal is that Jurgen Klopp is still a candidate for Real Madrid in case that they decide to appoint a new manager in the summer. And this is much more important. Despite Klopp's long-term contract with Red Bull and his appreciation for all of the Red Bull project, we can say that Real Madrid hold a major appeal for Jurgen Klopp. And if Real Madrid were to make a serious move for Jurgen Klopp, we can say Klopp would give it a serious consideration. He would serious consider to return as a head coach, and he's serious considering to join Real Madrid in summer.
I think if you're Jurgen Klopp, you can't really say no to Real Madrid. I mean, nobody really says no to Real Madrid. With the squad that they have, I think what Klopp would look into, though, is that Xabi Alonso came in with a clear idea of what he wanted, with a dressing room that he wanted to work in a certain way, far away from the Carlo Ancelotti chilled approach, let's say, a very pragmatic approach. He had a plan, he wanted them to work on certain things, he was quite demanding, and that didn't work out. So for Jurgen Klopp to come, with all the gegenpressing and all the intensity and all of that, he will have to also be a bit more like Carlo Ancelotti than being like Xabi Alonso if he wants to succeed there. But I mean, it would be amazing for Mbappe and Vinicius and the others to have Klopp on the bench.
Some interesting points there, Matt, from Julien Laurent to pick up on. Do you feel, in a way, for him, it would be no lose in the sense that Real Madrid burn through managers so quickly that it would not be seen as a negative on his CV if he went there and was only there a season or so?
To answer your question, I don't know, because, and the reason I say that is Jurgen Klopp is a manager that has been hugely successful with Liverpool. What he did with Dortmund, the way he connects a football club with the supporters, his enthusiasm, I think he'd be a great fit for Real Madrid. I look at the size of the football club that Real Madrid are. I look at him as a personality, the way in which he comes across in the media, but more importantly, the affection that his players have for him as a manager. That always tells you a lot when the manager leaves and how his players talk about him. Whether it's a free hit for everybody outside, it might be. I would say that if Jurgen Klopp took that job, there's only one thing he would want to do. That would be to win the league and to win the Champions League with Real Madrid. They're a huge football club with obviously a lot of history. So would he be a good fit? In my opinion, yes.
The point about his character is really interesting, that he does have that personality to command a club like Real Madrid. But does it feel a slightly less natural fit? That he's always sort of been at clubs where they've been the underdogs looking to sort of mess with the elite. So at Dortmund, you're punching up at Bayern Munich. At Liverpool, he always felt, I think, like he was punching up at Manchester City, that they are the teams to be shot at if he is the manager of Real.
I'd say he's won the Premier League with Liverpool. So expectation now, I think he'll deal with a lot better. So he will have changed as a person, as a coach and as a manager. What I like about him is he's very forthright. He has a very clear understanding and a very clear way of wanting to play. His teams are high energy. They have to run, right? They have to get after teams. But I'll go back to the players. They all play with smiles on their faces. I don't recall one of his players being substituted and chucking out their dummy. They go over to him. They have a huge respect for him as a man, first and foremost. if Real Madrid managed to get him, I think it would be as good a coup for them as it would be for him to be the manager of Real Madrid.
You talked there about the pressing and the running. There was a quote of his from 2023 where he said about Liverpool at the time, the ticket into this team will be about counter-pressing. That's where it starts. We've had so many games that I didn't like. That's a pretty strict thing. Do you think he's going to be able to coax Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Junior into counter-pressing and running around a bit more?
Well, it's quite simple. If he's the guy that's in charge, if you don't do what he says, you don't play.
Is that possible at Real Madrid, though? Do you think sometimes there are players that are bigger than the manager, almost bigger than the club?
I think you're always going to have that slightly, but I look at him and he's not just anybody. He's Jurgen Klopp. He walks into that dressing room the first day, he instantly gains respect. And look, you don't want to take away the flair from individuals, especially players like of that ilk that you've just mentioned. However, if he was going to get the job, I'm sure that there would be aspects that he would expect those players to do that maybe they haven't been asked to do so before. But the proof would be in the pudding. If he gets these players to run, if Mbappe has to counter-press and all of a sudden Real Madrid are winning the ball back higher up the pitch and Mbappe's stats are going from 20 goals a season to 28, then you've got the players buy-in. So it will be interesting to see what pans out.
All right, what about the man who has left then, Xabi Alonso? Well, he put out a short statement today on Instagram. He said, "This stage of my career has come to an end and it has not turned out as we would have liked. Coaching Real Madrid has been an honour and a responsibility. I am grateful to the club, the players and above all the fans. I leave with respect, gratitude and pride in having done my best."
The club president, Florentino Perez, wasn't really convinced that Alonso was the right man for the job. There's been issues with some players in the dressing room as well, including especially Vinicius, but also other big names in the dressing room who didn't really buy into all the methods that Alonso had, his way of coaching the team. He's a very intense guy. He wanted to set up the team in a particular way. He asked a lot from all of his players. He wanted his big name attackers to work really hard off the ball, to press back. Just hasn't worked out for Alonso the way that Alonso thought that it would, and the way a lot of us kind of hoped that it would or expected it to. And yeah, it's been huge news and unfortunate maybe for Alonso. Things haven't worked out for him, but not a huge surprise the way it happened.
Just to sort of tie in two of the things we've already spoken about with Carve and the summer market for managers, and also leaving a club where you don't necessarily tarnish your reputation. It feels like that may be the case with Xabi Alonso, that no one's going to think he's a bad coach because it's not quite worked here.
Agree with you, but I think part of the reasoning for that is what he achieved at Leverkusen, how he did it. The unbeaten run that they went on was astonishing. I remember checking the results. I didn't really used to check the results in Germany, checking the results just to see if he and his team had kept that unbeaten run going. Look, he'll be hurt right now. When you lose your job, it hurts. There'll be a period of reflection for him. He'll come out of this experience a better coach and a better manager. I guarantee you for that. So he will get another top job. The way in which he handles himself, the way in which he's handled the media, has been first class. He was an unbelievable footballer. I think he will go on to be a very, very good, exceptional manager who will want to win things domestically wherever he goes.
Just on the point then about dealing with big name players, you'd have worked under Sam Allardyce and Harry Redknapp, who at times would have had players you would say were far bigger than the rest of the dressing room. How did they manage that? And I think of an example at Bolton of someone like Nicolas Anelka. Was he allowed a little bit more rope than the rest to do his own thing or not?
I think the only way in which that would ever become relevant would be that player, said player, whomever that is, at whatever football club it is, has to be doing the business on the football pitch. Because what you can't do is you can't have a group of players one side of the dressing room that are working hard and then one player who's given a bit more leeway but doesn't perform on a Saturday. As a player, if my teammate was maybe having one day off a week but every Saturday he was a match winner, I would accept that. It's a real skill to be able to find a manager that is comfortable with that. First of all, he has to manage that player, but then he's got to manage the rest of the group, because the expectation on whether it be Mbappe at Real Madrid has got to be that come Saturday he's got to perform. So it doesn't matter what he does in the week, providing that he goes and performs at the weekend. So It's a difficult problem. It happens at every level of football, happens at every football club where you'll have the better players or the best players, the flair players, but you've also got the players underneath them who have to support them, because the players that have got the flair, they can't go and do their business if the rest of the team aren't supporting them.
I will lure some names out of you in the break as to who that refers to. When we do take a quick breather, we will come back and we will be live to St James's next, because the League Cup holders Newcastle host the 8-time winners Manchester City. Build up on the way.